Hey, it's Lee. Welcome to Business Problem Solved. Today, I have the great pleasure of chatting with Lewis Barton. Lewis, how are you?
I'm very well. All better for seeing you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good. Thank you very much. Very good. Very good. So polite, aren't you? So polite. But I guess for those people who don't know who Lewis is, who is Lewis, and how has he got to sit in that seat today? What's your journey?
Yeah, it's a long one, a good one. So I'm Lewis Barton. I'm 33, currently reside in Warrington. I've been invited on this podcast today. Obviously, I've known you for about 6-7 years now.
Yeah.
We worked together in one of our previous employees, and I do have quite a good story. I do apologise, a bit of a car noise behind me. Got this outside. I tried to sum myself, it's a little bit grey today, but you can't get all the luck in the world, can you?
Yeah.
My story is, so can you hear me okay over there?
Yep.
Yeah, so 12 months ago, this month, actually, I was going through quite a tough time in my life, sort of starting a fight with cancer, throat cancer to be a bit more specific. It all started sort of back in May 2020. I noticed a little lump on the side of my throat. Originally, I thought it was a spot. I wasn't somebody at the time that got a lot of spots, but I thought, oh, that's a weird spot. It didn't have any sort of like redheads on it or anything like that. So I left it a little bit, and it got a little bit bigger and bigger and bigger as the weeks went on. And as we all do, Lee, put it off going with doctors. Left it a couple more weeks from what I should have really. Got to the doctors about July. Walked through the doctors, got the sense that something wasn't quite right by their body language after she looked at it. So obviously we live in this world of COVID at the moment where everything was done over an e-consult, so done online. Talked to them about it, sent them a couple of pictures, and when they got there, they said, "Oh, it's a bit bigger than what we thought." And she looked a little bit shocked at what it was. So yeah, sort of didn't put me at ease. Waited a couple more weeks to get a doctor's appointment at the General Hospital here in Warrington with the ear, nose and throat clinic. And then at the end of that conversation, he sort of said to me, go back and we'll get back in touch. So I was like, well, what do I do now? Do I speak to my GP? And the term that they used was, no, you're with us now, which, anyone sort of who's been through this sort of journey, when you hear that, you're like, oh, okay, something sort of serious is happening with you. At that stage, we say, don't Google your symptoms. I Googled the symptoms. Yeah. Obviously, you've known me for long enough. I'm quite fast at the process of elimination. I eliminated everything in my mind, everything that made logical sense, and the only logical sense was it was cancer. There was nothing else really, but it could have been at my age. So, obviously, I didn't tell my family at this moment in time. I thought, I didn't want to scare them if it wasn't, but deep down inside, I knew what it was. So, appointment after appointment after appointment, anxiety started kicking in. Not so much depression at the time, but it was more like, what's happening next? What happens? It's quite a lonely time really, because you can't go and tell somebody that loves you, or potentially have got cancer, because you're going to scare them into sort of what, you're going to give them that anxiety of losing a loved one, because we all sort of hear that word and we deem it with the unfortunate. So a couple more weeks went on, started struggling at work, started struggling at home with what was going on, and I couldn't clear my head. I was turning up to work, and I've always been quite proud in what I do. Love putting a good effort in, love hard work, but I just couldn't do it. I was getting in, opening my emails, and I just couldn't bear to face an email. I couldn't bear to face any sort of news at that moment in time because I was scared of it being bad. I don't know, I couldn't explain that, when I can't explain something, I'd start overthinking, and snowball from there. So August the 10th, I get a phone call. I'd been for a biopsy at this stage. I get a phone call, and they diagnosed it as a branchial cleft cyst at first, which in my mind didn't make sense, because a branchial cleft cyst you normally get when you're a kid. It shows up then. So to get it at 33, at 32 at the time, it was a bit of a strange one. So I was like, right, okay. But what they said to me is it can turn cancerous if you get them at an older stage in life. So I was like, okay. Didn't put me totally at ease, but it eased me off a little bit. So I went to see the surgeon, and they were going to remove it. I went for an ultrasound so they could see, a little bit more in. And the person doing the ultrasound said you should probably send him for a PET CT scan before you start operating, because something doesn't look right. So I had like a ball of fluid. Now, a ball of fluid is normally a cyst, but inside it was like a little hard mass, which was, unbeknown at the time, that was a cancerous tumour that was in one of the lymph nodes. So yeah, went from a PET CT scan, went for the results. We're talking sort of, middle of September now. So if you think from July, where I was adamant, yes, it's cancer, so now it's September and I'm still no clearer. It was quite a long wait. Obviously still not opened up about it, still not properly talked to my family about it at this moment. So went for my results on the PET CT scan, obviously then world of COVID on my own in the hospital. And yeah, it lit up like a Christmas tree. And sort of from that moment on, it was definitely cancer. They ordered me for a different biopsy at a different hospital, people who specialise in them sort of biopsies. So I went up to Aintree, which is a cancer centre.
Yeah. So do you mind if I interrupt you there? Sorry, Lewis. Sorry, do you mind if I interrupt you there? Just because I think this is a point, and I don't want to forget this question really. So you've got thank you for sharing and the honest journey so far, and we'll get back to the story in a second. But this period of between June, July, and September, when it's you dealing with it in your own mind, you going to the appointments, the level of uncertainty, still going about your business as best you can. How was that?
It wasn't good, if I'm honest with you. So it came at a strange time, because I'd previously gone back to an employer in May. So obviously I'd spent about a year away from that employer. So I was currently on a probationary period. Now, obviously, when you're on a probationary period at any company, you don't tend to get sick pay. So by August, I'd just totally lost sort of, not self-control, but motivation. It's not that I'd give up. It was just I couldn't focus on anything. And, I started feeling like I was doing a bad job at work. And obviously, when I started feeling like that added on to that pressure. So, obviously the anxiety of waiting for phone calls, waiting for letters, waiting for appointments, waiting for an outcome. I then got sort of anxiety of going into work, because I thought I'm not doing my job. The actual truth of it was I was doing a good job at the time, but I didn't see that in my head. So I had to sort of protect myself and protect my health. So I decided to leave. It was about the middle of August I left, just to sort of focus on, what I need to do really. At home, my home life wasn't good. I thought I'd give up. I couldn't sort of bring myself to do much, if I'm honest with you. I'm not embarrassed about it anymore. But at the time, I wouldn't let anyone in my house because I hadn't tidied it. It got to a stage. It was about just before I got fully diagnosed. I asked my brother to come around, sort of help me, just to sort of get a clean house. Do you know what I mean? And that little thing, was it clean house, clean mind. But yeah, I didn't deal with it very well, because it was unknown, because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know, you know, and obviously at the time, without sort of being too like dramatic, but you know, you're scared of dying. And if you don't know whether you're going to live or die within the next sort of 12 months, 2 years, it plays in your mind sort of every single second of the day, really. So yeah, truth of it is I didn't cope very well.
Okay, and then we get to the diagnosis where you find out exactly what it is. What happened next?
So diagnosed in September with throat cancer, and then at the start of October, I'd had it's called a peniendoscopy, which is a full-on biopsy. So we put me to sleep, went into the bottom of my throat, took loads of samples, took a couple more scans. But at this stage, now that I knew what it was, it's not relief and it wasn't pressure. It was like, right, okay, I'm back on track. I know what it is. What do I do now? What can I control? And I sat there one day and I just thought, not that it's work, but I thought, in work, if I didn't know something, I would go and find out. If I can't control the outcome of something, then what can I control to potentially improve that outcome? So I sat on the couch one day and I just thought, you know what? I can't control what's going to happen in 2 years, but I can control exactly what happens now. How do I do that? What do I do? What sense of purpose have I got at this moment in time? And obviously, I thought back to the last sort of couple of months where I didn't even know what next appointment was. I didn't know what kind of biopsies you had. I didn't know what treatment was available. So I thought, well, if I don't know, there's a lot of other people that know. If I'm going through the journey and I'm experiencing this, I can share this to try and help other people to understand what the next sort of thing is. And it wasn't a focus on trying to make people feel positive and think positive and stuff like that. Because that moment in time, truth be told, you don't think positive because, you know, you're scared. You know, it's not a positive thing. It's just, right, what is it? What can I control? What can I do? What's the next steps? What do I need to tell my family about what I'm doing next? So I started doing video logs of what I was doing. And I wanted to not focus on me as a person, but the cancer itself. And obviously, I titled it all like sort of the raw truth of cancer. And it wasn't about what I'm doing on a daily basis. Like, I'm not going to Starbucks, I'm not doing this. It's this appointment. Here's the reason for the appointment, and here's what we discussed at that appointment. And I want to sort of touch on that more than sort of the daily life of a cancer patient. It was, what do you do?
Yeah.
So that gave me quite a bit of a lift, if I'm honest with you. And then I was thinking about it the other day, and in a really strange way, I was kind of looking forward to what is about to come. And I started enjoying being on this cancer journey. Not enjoying, obviously, you know, I'd never wish it upon anyone, but I started enjoying sort of getting to understand what's going on. And there now, there's nothing I can do about it as an outcome, but I can control what's in front of me. So I can start enjoying it, learn what's going on, and share it with people, and give people that knowledge of, you know, what's going on. Because it's not just cancer patients that's affected. It's, you know, we all know somebody or in our time that will go through this. And if you can reassure them, because you know the process, you know, it helps everyone. So it wasn't just aimed at just people going through the same journey.
Lewis, sorry again to just interrupt. I just want to pick up on something again. You, at the start of your journey, you didn't want to tell anybody, no. and then partway through your journey, when you've got clarity and you've started to research a little bit more, you've decided that you'd like to tell everybody about it. What was the difference? Was it just that purpose around there was no information there, so you wanted to share it to help other people? And what did your family and friends think of you doing that when you'd kept from them for such a period of time?
So, yeah, good question. So the reason I started doing it was to share it. Obviously, I don't like talking about something that I don't fully understand, you know, and we say, you know, you have confident people. You know, I wouldn't class myself as a fully confident person. I think confidence can come with knowledge. You know, like I said this on a post, you know, a few months ago, where I can go up and I can talk about my journey or something that I am passionate about or something that I fully understand. I could broadcast that to 30,000 people in a conference room. I couldn't go into a pub and approach 4 random strangers and just start talking, because I'm not that sort of confident person. You know, I tend to keep myself to myself in my personal life, but in work I come across as really confident. So I became confident in my knowledge of what was happening because I was going through it myself. And that's why I did, you know, there's quite a period in between my videos, because at the time I didn't want to go on to record and give false information. You know, so yeah, I gained the confidence because I gained the knowledge of what was going on. My family didn't approve at first, if I'm honest with you, of me doing videos. But I sort of said, I'm a person that likes to do the right thing, you know, and doing the right thing isn't always what people want. You know, it's just what is the right thing to do. And at the time, in my mind, you know, I think of what I went through in my last 3 months. Doing the right thing was helping other people. Didn't matter what situation I was in, didn't matter, you know, what I felt, but, you know, if I can stop other people feeling like that, it felt like the right thing for me to do. So I had that conversation with my family, and they, you know, came across and, you know, supported me fully. Once I started doing videos, you know, my family started really enjoying them, because they got to know, and, you know, in a weird way, it was me opening up and not having to sit sort of face to face to someone. It was me talking to a camera and being able to express myself to a camera and sit there and think about it without questions coming in, you know, left, right, and centre, whilst I made sense of it myself. And I suppose in a way, it helped me sort of make sense of things as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you for that. Sorry to interrupt. So yeah, carry on the story. So where are we up to now at the point? So you've started vlogging, you're telling and sharing the story,
Yeah.
and then what's happening with the cancer?
So at this time, I get the endoscopy. So this full biopsy now will now tell me at what stage I'm at with the cancer, and what it'll help determine what type of treatment plan I have. So the endoscopy comes back, I go in. Actually, no, I don't go in. It's a phone call. So I agreed to have all of my appointments through telephone call, because I couldn't go with anyone anyway. And I didn't touch on this in my last sort of sentence, where when I went for the results of the PET-CT scan, I got told, yes, it's cancer. I was on my own, and I had to go on my own because of COVID. You know, the appointment room's right at the back of the hospital. Obviously, I'm not an emotional person, but I did shed a couple of tears at the time walking out, and I had to walk through the hospital on my own. And I didn't want to feel like that again. You know, if I was upset, and I didn't want to have to go through that again on my own. So I agreed for it all to be on phone call in the comfort of my own home, or at the ones. So got the phone call from the surgeon, and unfortunately, it was a lot more advanced than originally thought. So the cancer hadn't started in my lymph node or in my throat. It was at the base of my throat, and it had spread to 2 lymph nodes on the side. Now, in old terms, that would class as stage 4, which obviously stage 4 is the very last stage, where it's, you know, quite serious. But we style it different now. We do a T&M thing, so the tumour, nodes, and then metastasis if it's spread outside the nodes. So mine was T2, so my tumour was bigger than 2 inches. The node, the N, was 2B, so 2 meant it spread to 2 lymph nodes, and the B meant it was on the same side. And luckily the N was 0, so it hadn't spread outside the lymph node away from the primary tumour. So that was quite a really tough day, because obviously I thought I'd caught it early. You know, I'm a young man. So in my mind, I thought I'm probably stage 1, stage 2. Just find out that he was at stage 4 was quite a blow. You know, and I had to tell. The hardest part was telling family. You know, So yeah, carried on with my videos, even on the day.
Sorry, Lewis, just that point then about the hardest part was telling the family. What was, how did you pluck up the courage to do it?
It wasn't so much plucking up courage. Again, it was about doing the right thing. I didn't want to. I didn't want to stand there and tell somebody, my cancer is more advanced than what we thought, but I had to, and I can't, I'm going, again, touch back on the last few months. I've gone through this period of anxiety where it's the unknown, but so is my friends and family. So the right thing was to put them at not ease, but let them know exactly what's going on. It'd be wrong of me to sort of go through what I did and then make someone else go through that as well. So, it was about doing what was right, not what I wanted to do and not what I had the strength to do. It was about what I needed to do at the time.
How did the family respond?
They was upset, obviously quite emotional, asked a lot of questions. Some of the questions I didn't have the answer to, because once you tell somebody, you want to know, right, what's the next steps, what potential outcomes are going to be, and these were all questions that I didn't know. Because the next stage after that was through a team of consultants, so oncologists, surgeons, specialists in sort of that particular cancer. We call it a task team, so they get around and like discuss you as an individual on what that treatment plan is. And that didn't come for a few weeks, so obviously I had to sort of let the family know that it's still going to be another couple of weeks yet until we find out sort of what next steps are.
Got you. No, thank you. So we're carry on the story. Sorry to interrupt you again.
That's fine. So the original plan when I first went after the PET-CT scan was to have surgery. So what we were going to do was do an incision down the side of the neck and take a load of tissue out the lymphatic system. So take a load of lymph nodes out and then take excess and test it. After the full biopsy, we decided against that because the morbidity rate was quite high. So I'd have had sort of lifelong lasting effects on that. So you lose a lot of the movement in your arm because of it, because you have to go through nerves because of where it was. So we decided on chemo and radiotherapy. Now for throat cancer, the treatment plan is quite a short treatment plan. It's 6 weeks, but it's an intense treatment plan. So it's 6 weeks. It was, for my particular one, was 30 sessions of radiotherapy over 6 weeks, and then 2 sessions of chemo. Now, a lot of chemotherapy, they do it in cycles. So like it might be like an hour or 2 a day, whereas for mine it was 10-hour sessions and high dosages of chemo. So that started, my first session was, sorry, no, I'm jumping ahead. So after a load of consultancies, a lot of sort of meetings, a lot of phone calls, we went through all the possible side effects that I might face and give me a couple of options. One option that I think was the most important option was to have a feeding tube fitted. So I had a feeding tube fitted through the middle of my stomach because the radio burns all your throat, and the chemo, it gives you ulcers and stuff like that. Destroys all your saliva glands, so your mouth becomes quite dry. It can become difficult to eat. If you can't eat, then I would have had to go into hospital for the duration. I'm probably staying there a couple of months so they can feed me through my nose. So I decided to have the feeding tube. And I'll touch on that in a little bit of time. So yeah, 11th of November, I had a feeding tube fitted, and 17th of November, I started on my treatment plan. So treatment plan was I had 1 radio session a day. On the 2nd day, I had my chemo, and then on the 5th week, I had my chemo as well. But we came into a couple of complications in my 5th week around Christmas time, because we're on my 2nd chemo cycle. my body started rejecting everything. So I remember I was sat in the chair, having the fluid, having the anti-sickness. As soon as the chemo started going in, my body just went into rejection mode because it realized what it was. So we say the first time you have it, your body accepts it because it doesn't know what it is. The second time, your body tries to fight against it. Obviously being young and quite healthy, my body decided, no, I'm not having any of this. And I started throwing up all the anti-sickness that had gone into my body. So it hit me really hard. A couple of days after, my body started rejecting everything that went into it. So I couldn't even feed myself through a tube. I couldn't intake water because my body would just say, no, I'm not taking anything more. And it just started throwing everything up. So I ended up in hospital. I didn't drink or eat for about 5 days. I was quite malnourished. Stubborn me, left it a bit too long to sort of raise the alarm bells. But yeah, I ended up in hospital for a week at Christmas, came home for a couple of days, went back in, and then came out New Year's Eve. But it delayed my treatment. So because I was throwing up everything, and at the time, my saliva glands started malfunctioning. So I got a lot of phlegm in the bottom of my throat and it was making me gag and making me be sick. I couldn't lie down flat on the radio bed because I'd throw up. Now on the radio, to your throat, you have to have this mask over you to keep you in place. I couldn't have a mask on for half an hour from a radio session. So yeah, it delayed it a little bit. So it prolonged it by a week.
Right. Wow. Well, quick question for you, Lewis. As you just paused for an intake of breath. At the start of it, your journey and your story, you said that being who you are, you didn't go in and get it checked as soon as you should. And then partway through your journey, then you just said you waited a little bit longer than you should. What's the reasons for that? What prevented you from going in?
I think it's not that I'm a major positive person, but it was like, it's okay, I'll be better. I'll be okay in an hour. I'll be okay in a day. I'll be okay in 2 days. And then I wasn't okay. I was gradually getting worse. You know, I have a lot of belief in myself. But yeah, I'll get better. I'm strong. I've got the strength to fight it. I'll be okay. And I wasn't okay. So I think I just, relied on my strength a little bit too much. You got to realize when, it's time to call it.
Yeah. Would you now, if there was anything wrong with you, would you still be the same or
No,
or not?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I've learned my lesson. Definitely learned my lesson.
That's one hell of a lesson there is. Let's get back to that lesson as well. So carry on the story, please.
Yeah. So treatment plan all finished. If I could explain it and describe it, if you think of the worst hangover you've ever had in your life, times it by 10. And yeah, adding a little bit of fatigue, a little bit of anxiety. Yeah, that's how I would explain it. I had a laugh with somebody I was talking to at the time, and they asked me, how are you doing? And I said, oh yeah, I've been worse. And I sat there and I thought, no, I'm not. I've never been worse. So obviously I've not touched on the finance part yet, but just a slight touch. I had no income. My rent wasn't being covered. I'd sold my car, sold possessions to pay my rent. Don't know, what outcome I'm going to have at the moment. I can't eat, I can't drink. So I've never been worse in my life. Why have I just said that? And again, I go back to that. I'm positive. I'll be better. I'll get better. Yeah, I laugh about it now. I laughed about it. I think it's quite a funny statement for me to say. So yeah, obviously touched on August where I'd left my job because obviously you wouldn't be entitled to any sort of sick pay or anything like that. At the time, obviously, I had quite a lot of people in that position. A lot of people rely on having a manager there. You've got warehousing and transport coming into a peak period. I'm not going to be fit enough and well enough to stay there. So again, the right thing. But I didn't try and claim any benefits for 3 months because I had my own money. You know, I had a bit of savings put away, and I thought, you know, I don't know what's going on yet. Do I just go and try and find a job where people don't rely on you too much? You know, people don't rely on you to perform to get that team through. So it didn't fruition, and then I signed on to Universal Credit in start of November when I knew full what my treatment plan was. Now, unfortunately, because of my age, I wasn't entitled to any sort of full help with my rent. So at the time, I had a 2-bedroom house, and they only give you sort of local housing rate for a shared accommodation. So they basically said, well, you can go and live in a bedroom and share a house with someone. And at the time, because of my treatment, I was going to be classed as vulnerable and shielding, so I couldn't share a house with anybody. And the only way to sort of get around that would be for PIP to be awarded, which I had put in for, but there was a backlog because a lot of people put in over the COVID period, and it took them 6 months to award PIP. So my monthly income went from, you know, quite a substantial amount to £680. My rent was 650. So yeah.
Wow. So I need to ask this now, Lewis. Right. So you're going through the all of your treatments. You've just been diagnosed. You don't know what the future holds, and then you are not in a financially stable position. You've got more outgoings than incomings. What's going on in your head? And you mentioned the word anxiety and anxious a few times and stuff. Just touch on that briefly for me, please, just to try to get across that what is happening in your head.
So there was a very, very split moment where I thought it's too much, I can't do it. And then I was like, well, actually, I can do it. I've got a decent car set out that I don't owe any finance on. I own it outright. I can go and sell that. You know, I can give up some of my, you know, personal belongings that I've sort of worked hard for over the years. So I had a big fancy guitar that I couldn't justify having in my house and not being able to pay my rent. So I sold my laptop, I sold my guitar, my amps, my car, to try and finance what was going to happen over the next sort of few months and make sure that I've got a roof over my head. One of my friends set up a GoFundMe, which raised £2,000 to help me with my rent. And at the time, I was like, no, I didn't want it. You know, it was a bit too much pride. And then I thought, well, actually, I said in one of my videos that you need to accept help when you need it. So I was like, right, okay, yeah, you can do it. It didn't make me feel great at the time, but I needed it. I did need it. I mean, you know, it made me quite happy that people were looking out for me in that respect. So yeah, financially ruined. I'm still rebuilding that at this moment in time. You know, I'm still rebuilding, you know, my fitness and my health. But yeah, back to the story and post treatment. So I started taking morphine as about middle of December to help ease the pain of what was happening. So the back of my neck was burnt, the front of my neck was burnt. I had big massive ulcers in my throat. My head was banging every day. My arms were numb. So I got one of the rare side effects of peripheral neuropathy. So it affected all my nerves in my body. So I was getting like numb legs, pins and needles everywhere. So I started taking morphine. That I came off that in May. So I was on morphine for, you know, a good 5 or 6 months. So post treatment, it all just sort of stopped. So I was going to the Clatterbridge Centre every single day for 6 weeks, and then after that, it just sort of stopped. I didn't really speak to anyone. I had to wait till February to have my first sort of checkup. And that was just to make sure that I'm coping well after treatment and the side effects aren't too severe. And then it was about March where I went and had another PET CT scan to check whether the treatment had worked. So I had that. And yeah, that wait was the worst wait I've ever experienced in my life, you know. Yeah, that 2 weeks was the hardest 2 weeks I've ever had. You know, you're waiting to find out what's going to happen, you know, and yeah, it was tough. But
what did you do in them 2 weeks, Lewis?
I looked for a job. I started job hunting. I thought to myself, I'm going to go back to this, what I can control, what I can't control. Financially, I couldn't afford not to go to work, but I needed a job where it wasn't pushing me too hard and I could just sort of, you know, not have to be there all the time and not be at the end of the phone or anything like that. So yeah, I started looking for a job in them 2 weeks. I had 2 interviews. I fluffed one interview, my first one, understandably, and then I thought, no, I'm going to smash this second one. So I went for the second one and got the job. Yeah, so I went for an interview, got the job, and then entered into remission a week later.
Wow.
Yeah, so I got the phone call. But actually, I had to chase them up for the outcome because my surgeon had gone off, not my surgeon, my oncologist had gone off. And they were quite, what's the word? Quite delayed in giving me the outcome. So I had to chase it up almost every single day. And in the end, I just rang them up and said, listen, all I want is a yes or no. Yes, it's works. No, it's not. I don't need any more information at this moment. So if it's, you know, even if it's Billy Joe off the street, I don't care. Just get him to ring me and say yes or no. That's all. So in the end, one of the nurses rang me and said that treatment seems to have been successful, and that was no sign of cancer in my throat. So that put me at good ease. And then I started work on the 5th of May.
Oh wow. Wow, yeah. What 14 months or however what 12 months it was.
12 months it's been, yeah.
Yeah, what a 12 months. If you could say anything to yourself just before it happened, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself?
I wish I'd have watched my videos right at the beginning. You know, and I think, again, the advice that the journey that I tried to share with people, I wish that journey was available to me. You know, I think I'd have definitely tried to get my finances sorted out a bit sooner. The PIT couldn't be helped because of a delay. And obviously, from the moment that I tried to claim that was when I started my treatment. I couldn't try and claim it before that because, you know, at the time I wasn't going for anything. So I couldn't really do too much about that. But I'd have told myself, you know, you're going to get through it. But you can't say that to somebody at the start of a cancer journey because the outcome is, it's not just down to luck, it is down to medical. But you as a person cannot affect the outcome, what it's going to be, but you can affect the journey. You can affect the journey and what you're going on, and you can sort of prepare yourself for that. And that's what I try to help other people do. So that's the advice I would give myself.
Wow, I mean, that would be a perfect way to end the conversation with that rallying cry that you've just given then. But I don't want to end the conversation there. I want to just talk about you for a little bit longer, actually, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
What have you learned about yourself in the last 12 months?
I always knew I was a strong and resilient person. I'd never been through a tough time before in my life. Outside looking in, people would have thought, oh, that's quite a tough time. But to me at the time, I didn't think that this tested me full stop. Yeah. I think just me as a person, my strength is probably my strength, and it's probably my biggest strength, of resilience. You know, not just that. I never see myself as like an inspirational person or a motivational person. You know, I think I've let what I do, and my actions inspire people, not what I say. Over the last sort of 12 months, a thing that I've said has inspired people. And obviously, I didn't set off to inspire people. I set off to help people. But a lot of people have messaged me saying they found it quite inspirational. You know, people that I've never met just find the way that I've come across, the way that I've put things across, and sort of that in my hour of need, technically, has been quite inspirational to them. And I'm a lot better at networking than what I thought. A lot better at talking than I thought.
Yeah. What's the dream for Lewis Barton?
Oh, that's a tough question, man. To help more people. To help more people in whatever way or whatever capacity that is. You know, whether it's what journey they're going through, whether I can share my experiences, and if they can take any correlation through that, because every journey is different. You know, I think back to a picture where you've got the two dogs, one's covered in mud and one's only got his paws wet, but with bigger people, bigger and smaller, but it's the same puddle. So you can go through the same journey, but the outcome in your mind can be a lot different because it affects people in different ways. But, you know, just being able to be there to support people and help people. But not even that, just help people in any aspect, really. You know, I don't want to go down sort of route of like continuous improvement and stuff like that, but my passion is improving. Somebody asked me once, what am I passionate about? And I wrapped my brain, and I'll show you who that person was.
Yeah.
It actually took me a week to sort of think about what it was. You know, I played guitar, I played football, I played competitively on the games that I played. I was like, why do I play them? I'm actually passionate about them because I can go a week without doing it, and I don't like fully miss it. It's because I was trying to improve. I played guitar because I wanted to improve at playing guitar. I played football because I wanted to get better. I played the games and I put hours into practice because I wanted to get better at them. So that's what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about getting better. So if I can help people get better in any way, shape or form, that's what I would want in the future.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. What an answer, Lewis. You are an extremely inspirational individual, and honestly, I just want to thank you for sharing, being so honest and candid and open with your story, your journey. This series on the podcast is called Real People, Real Stories, Real Value, and there's a reason why this episode is the first one in that, because I think you sum up those three things. You are completely a real person in exactly how you come across. You've had one hell of a story and a journey that you've had just in the last 12 months. And hopefully through your words, through your actions, through your story, it offers people real value in what they're doing, in whatever they're doing, because I think your lessons and your value that you've shared today is transferable, not just within a cancer journey, it's within life as well. So I just want to thank you for sharing that and being so honest with that. The podcast as well, I normally ask two more questions. One question, what are you having for your tea tonight, Lewis?
I am having shepherd's pie. So I'm still on soft food. I don't have saliva in my throat, so I find it hard to eat like dry food. So I'm having shepherd's pie, which I am cooking. My partner has gone out to the dentist, so I am on house duties today on my time off work. So yeah, I'm having shepherd's pie.
Wow. And I guess just touching on that, how has your life changed from say 12, 13 months ago to now?
I feel like I just took a couple of steps back, you know, not out of choice. I think I've took a different role. You know, I feel like I've been put back a 5 years, you know, but I've got the experience I had 5 years ago. I've got more experience now, and I've been through a hell of a journey to help me with whatever I want to do next. You know, and I look forward to sort of rebuilding myself back to where I want to be, and further.
Wow. Wow. And if people want to find out more about you, your journey, your story, where's the best place they can go? Where can they find out about you, Lewis?
I am on LinkedIn, Lewis Barton. I also videos are posted on YouTube. They can be searched under Lewis Barton, my cancer journey. I didn't push them as much on YouTube. They were just there just to make sure that we stay there for a while. A lot of it was done through social media, like sort of Facebook and stuff like that. So yeah, the best place to go to make sure that they're easy accessible, it would be the YouTube, Lewis Barton, my cancer journey.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Honestly, such an inspirational, amazing individual. I just want to say thank you so much again, Lewis, for the opportunity to chat with you today, to understand more, and just for your honest and raw, honest recalling of your last 12 months. It's been an absolute pleasure to know you for all the years I have, and just to see the courage and how you tackled the last 12 months. I think it's just a credit and a testament to you as a person. So, thanks so much, Lewis.
Yeah, thank you too. Thanks for your time.
Speak to you very soon.